We all know the GOAT. Jerry Rice has the rings, the records, and the longevity. But for 2 decades, the NFL wasn't just about who was the greatest. It was about who was the most dangerous. In one corner, you have the super freak, a man who changed the geometry of the field. In the other, you have T.O., a physical specimen who treated every play like a heavyweight title fight. One was a silent assassin, the other was a Broadway lead. The stats are a wash, but the legacies are worlds apart. We lay out the cases, you decide for yourself. Who you got? Randy Moss and Terrell Owens both terrorized NFL defenses for over a decade, putting up nearly identical Hall of Fame numbers that make this debate one of the closest in football history. Both receivers finished with remarkably similar stats. But when you dig beneath the surface into their personalities and character, subjective factors emerge that make this debate much more of a preference of entertainment value. Looking purely at the numbers, the statistical gap between these two legends is razor thin, but reveals a fascinating split. Moss finished his career with 982 receptions for 15,292 yards and 156 touchdowns, while Owens tallied 1,078 catches for 15,934 yards and 153 touchdowns. That's a striking contrast. Owens caught 96 more passes and gained 642 more yards, but Moss scored 3 more touchdowns despite having fewer opportunities. The efficiency tells the real story. Moss averaged 15.6 yards per catch compared to Owens's 14.8, meaning every time Moss touched the ball, he gained nearly a full yard more. More telling is the touchdown rate. Moss found the end zone on 15.9% of his receptions, while Owens scored on just 14.2% of his catches. That might seem like a small difference, but over a 14-year career, it's the gap between a good receiver and an explosive game changer. Moss caught 90 touchdown receptions in his first 7 seasons, an absolutely blistering pace that Owens never matched. Meanwhile, Owens recorded a remarkable 3-year span from 2000 to 2002, during which he caught 290 passes for 4,163 yards and 42 touchdowns, showing his ability to sustain elite production over longer stretches. But here's where the numbers start telling only half the story. Owens played 15 seasons to Moss's 14, yet Moss nearly matched his touchdown total in less time. When you factor in that Moss experienced a slump during his Oakland years before his career resurgence with New England, his peak efficiency becomes even more remarkable. The statistics suggest 2 different types of greatness. Owens, the workhorse accumulator; Moss, the explosive finisher. When we examine their highest level play, the gap between these legends becomes even more fascinating. Moss holds the NFL single-season touchdown reception record with 23 in 2007, breaking Jerry Rice's previous mark of 22. His 2007 season featured touchdowns in 13 of 16 games, including 8 multi-touchdown games, and he scored 4 touchdowns against Buffalo in a single game. That Patriots offense was surgical precision, a quarterback who trusted his first read, because his first read was Randy Moss. But here's where the debate takes an unexpected turn. While Moss was setting single-season records, Owens recorded a remarkable 3-year span from 2000 to 2002, setting career highs with 1,451 yards in 2000 and 100 catches in 2002. That's not just a hot streak. That's sustained excellence over multiple seasons. The numbers reveal something uncomfortable for Moss supporters. Owens made 97 catches for 1,451 yards in 2000 93 catches for 1,412 yards in 2001, and 100 catches for 1,300 yards in 2002. 3 consecutive seasons of elite production, each one delivering over 1,300 yards and 90-plus catches. Meanwhile, Moss's peak was more volatile. Legendary highs followed by puzzling lows, like his Oakland years where his production mysteriously dropped. Owens broke a 50-year NFL record with 20 receptions in a single game against the Chicago Bears on December 17, 2000. A record that Brandon Marshall eclipsed by a single reception in 2009. That same season, he was establishing himself as one of the most reliable targets in football history. The uncomfortable truth emerges. While Moss had the higher peak in 2007, Owens had the more consistent peak performance across multiple seasons. This reveals 2 different types of greatness. Moss, the explosive finisher; Owens, the dependable accumulator who delivered when it mattered most. Who do you think had the most impressive peak? Moss being part of 2 of the highest scoring offenses in NFL history, or Owens' 3-year stretch of 290 catches for 4,163 yards? Drop your answers and thoughts into the comments below. Now let's examine the character factor that could affect your thinking of these 2 legends. The playoff stage reveals where legends truly separate themselves. Moss recorded 54 receptions for 977 yards and 10 touchdowns in 15 postseason games, including a crucial touchdown in Super Bowl 42 that helped the Patriots nearly complete their perfect season. That's an average of 72 yards per playoff game with a touchdown every 1.2 games. Elite production when the lights were brightest. More critically, Moss averaged 18.4 yards per catch in the playoffs, compared to his 15.6 regular season average. He actually got better when the stakes were highest. Owens' postseason resume tells a different story. He was held to 4 catches or less in 8 of his 12 postseason games, including a 4-reception, 40-yard effort in a loss to Green Bay in 2002, a 35-yard stinker in a 31-6 loss to Tampa Bay in 2003, and only mustered 26 yards in a 21-20 divisional loss to the Seahawks with Dallas in 2007. In his famous 1998 wildcard game against Green Bay, Owens dropped multiple passes and lost a fumble before finally catching the game-winning touchdown. Redemption, but also evidence of inconsistency under pressure. His most famous playoff moment came in Super Bowl 39, when he caught 9 passes for 122 yards on a broken leg just 7 weeks after surgery. A courageous performance that masked a larger pattern. Owens' playoff production often fell short of his regular season standards, particularly in elimination games where his teams needed him most. Pressure situations may define the argument between these 2 legends. Moss elevated his game for the biggest moments, delivering 10 playoff touchdowns and improved efficiency when pressure mounted. Owens sometimes crumbled under the ultimate pressure, his regular season dominance failing to translate when elimination games demanded it most. This is where the debate heats up, not just in peak performance, but in the ability to sustain excellence when everything was on the line. The character factor that disrupts this debate emerges when we examine how personality and locker room conduct directly impacted team success. Owens' public attacks on teammates and quarterbacks created systematic fractures in team chemistry. He criticized Donovan McNabb publicly in 2005, leading to his indefinite suspension from Philadelphia just 7 games into the season. He later threw Jeff Garcia, Tony Romo, and other quarterbacks under the bus in media appearances. Beyond verbal attacks, Physical altercations with teammates revealed the depth of the problem. Locker room incidents that poisoned team environments until his departure. Moss had his own character issues, but they manifested differently and less destructively to team cohesion. He required anger management counseling in 2000 after verbally abusing corporate sponsors, and he made controversial statements about playing when I want to play. But critically, Moss's problems weren't rooted in attacking teammates or quarterbacks. His issues centered on effort and off-field conduct, rather than systematically destroying locker room trust. Neither pattern shed good light on the individual. Owens's character flaws directly undermined team chemistry and quarterback relationships, while Moss's flaws were more about individual effort and external incidents. When a receiver publicly attacks his quarterback and fights teammates, it fractures the very foundation that winning teams require. Moss's issues, while real, didn't poison the locker room in the same way. Randy Moss was part of the two highest-scoring offenses in NFL history, the 1998 Minnesota Vikings and the 2007 New England Patriots. The 1998 Vikings scored 556 points, breaking the NFL record that had stood for decades. The 2007 Patriots shattered that mark with 589 points and went 16-0 in the regular season. Moss wasn't just along for the ride. He was the catalyst that made these offenses unstoppable. His deep threat opened up everything underneath. His red zone presence created automatic scoring opportunities, and his mere presence on the field forced defenses to completely alter their schemes. Owens, despite his impressive individual numbers, never anchored an offense that reached these historic heights. While both players reached conference championships, neither won a Super Bowl. But the gap in peak offensive impact is undeniable. Moss consistently elevated his teams to elite offensive performance when surrounded by the right talent, transforming entire systems into historic juggernauts. The decisive difference comes down to this. When you needed a receiver to transform your offense into a historically great unit, you wanted Randy Moss. When you needed consistent production and durability, you wanted Terrell Owens. But here's where this debate gets truly complicated. Greatness can be measured in explosive peaks that change the game itself, or in the relentless consistency that defines championship teams. Moss created two of the greatest offensive seasons in NFL history, while Owens delivered 3 consecutive years of elite production that few receivers have ever matched. So who really deserves the crown? The explosive game-changer who reached untouchable heights, or the dependable accumulator who delivered when his teams needed him most? The receiver who transformed offenses into historic juggernauts, or the one who consistently moved the chains for over a decade? I want to hear from you. Is it the Sharpie or the straight cash? Drop your vote in the comments. Subscribe for more savvy NFL takes.